Good morning, park managers, and welcome back to Jurassic World Evolution 2. Today we're making a forest enclosure. I kind of was wondering what I wanted to do, and I was just I thought I'd go around looking at different environments and different types of things, and then I just come across a picture. I was like, I really like the look of that, and I place it on screen now so you can have an idea of what I've got for my inspiration for this. And now, because it's somewhat, I'd explain it as slightly dense, but still a lot of open gaps, so probably okay for the smaller to medium sized herbivores or carnivores. So I'm going to probably make this a herbivore enclosure and have it sort of probably like a Dryosaurus or a Hyhungosaurus or something like that, something small. But let's get to it. Anyways, so looking at the ground layer of it, we're just going to use, we're on tropical, so we'll just use dirt, because there's a lot of fallen leaves in this image. There's little areas of green, so we're going to use dirt as our base color. We'll probably remove those tropical plants out that are in the corner, because it's just when you put a base color down, it makes things a lot easier. Yeah, it looks kind of weird at first when you're placing everything down, but then over the time, when you get to that stage where you need to sort of add the different layers of colors and things, it just makes things so much more, makes it simpler. So I feel we also need a water source in here so our dinosaurs can drink, and we can't have we don't have water in buckets or anything like that in this game. So what I think will look quite appropriate will be somewhat of a river snaking through it, kind of vibe. Sort of like so. Yeah, that looks all right. And then we can always add slight bits of sand to it, because again, that's what you sort of expect. But we'll make the water thinner once we've sort of placed it down, because I don't want it this thick. I don't want the river to be the main bit, but I still want it that our dinosaurs can drink for it. So notice sometimes there'll be water in the enclosure, but if you make it too small, the dinosaurs won't recognize that as a water source, and yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So we want them to be able to drink. So we'll just bring the land mass flat and closer up to our water source. I was kind of hoping when I dug it down a bit like that, it would be level, because it's very 50-50. Sometimes it'll be level, and other times it won't be level, which gets a little bit annoying. But it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. It is what it is. Brush wise, looking at it, I think what I might use, because it depends on animals, so I'm probably going to use a tiny bit of that and hope that we don't get the red plant in there. So there's a plant that comes with this brush, and it's a log really, with a load of the meat. I call them meat flowers. And you also have this log as well, but it's not too bad a log really. No, it is. I don't want the red ones on it, because there's not much colour in this. It's literally just green. But yeah, that I can't think of the name. Usually I know the name of it, but basically the way it reproduces itself is it uses flies to do that, to pass on its pollen. So the smell of the flower smells like rotting flesh. It's not a flower you'd want in your kitchen, that's for sure, on the dining room table. But yeah, it's an interesting adaptation, shall we call it. It's decided, you know what, I don't care about flies. I don't care for bees or butterflies. So it's all about the flies. Let's make ourselves let's make it smell. I don't even know how a plant, just think of how that's evolved. In some sense, somewhere that plant must have been able to sense the smell of something rotting to then try and almost replicate it so that flies like it. I've never actually ever looked into the evolution of that plant or what we know about that plant. I just know what it looks like, and I usually do know its name, but today for some reason I don't know it when I need to know it. We'll add a bit of this here and there, and I'm only lightly tapping it because I want to do there's some big areas where this bit we're going to be placing some of the lower trees, and then the browner areas we're going to be using a lot of the like tall skinny pines, because unfortunately there isn't any tall like temperate trees in a sense. I mean, you could kind of go for the molten ones, but I don't want that bright white sort of wood. I want it to have that kind of almost temperate feel. Also for the bushier areas we can use the temperate trees and have a stab at it like that. But this should be adding plenty of food sources for our little thing. Our little creatures. And I suppose we could add like a little scavenger in here as well, you know, something that's kind of cute and fluffy, kind of fox-like. So I'll let you guess in the comments what dinosaur I'm probably thinking. So yeah, we'll add a meat eater for our little scavengers, because I feel like now it feels like they would suit a temperate forest, because it's just, you know, kind of fox-like. I mean, these days we kind of like see foxes more in cities and like the farm rather than like roaming around woodlands. But unless you watch Peter Rabbit, which is something I now watch a fair bit, not out of choice, but out of my children's choice. So we'll do like that. We're going to be adding, I think, to be honest, these little rocks, because there's no big rocks in this picture, but it looks like there's loads of little rocks, so we'll be using maybe that, or which one's got more moss on it? Right, we'll use the alpine rocks because they have more moss on it, which is the kind of sort of look we'll probably go for. But first we'll add our trees. So tree wise, we may as well just use the alpine ones without, how do I use the tiger? So I know some of the alpine ones, I'm just trying to think, so I don't want, well, so some of these have like these swampy feel to them, and I mean I can always avoid those. Now looking at it, it's pretty, have we got in, we don't have in random rotations, so some of those, well, oh we did have it, did we? Let's just let me, yeah, we had a random rotation, okay. So it's kind of like that, like it looks dense, and that's what we're going to be doing all over the enclosure mainly. I know I've done some on there, but we'll be adding some more lower trees down, so I won't heavily do it there. But when you're looking at it, it looks kind of like that, but obviously all densed up, and we have this nice little river going through our enclosure. I'll just sort of do this area first, so I get like a rough idea, like completely do it, so then I have a rough idea of the way I want the enclosure to look, and have the right kind of trees. So probably have the odd one of these. It's obviously, it's growing up to be that tree. And as usually, whenever I try and record these videos, or whenever I'm live streaming, my body just decides to attack me for some reason. Right, so do that. Probably a few of these little baby trees knocking around, because it's all about height, and I feel like when you build it up like this and you sort of like look into it, it's going to look fairly nice. And obviously we don't have any kind of pine tree brush on here, because we're on the tropical one. I mean, I suppose you could use the food brush if you don't have the ability to have random trees like this on other types of biomes. Honestly, one of the best things about playing either on a new gen console or PC is you have access to everything on the sandbox maps, which I feel like really adds to like building. Obviously you can make some simple enclosures using like less of the stuff, quite nice, but it's just nice having the ability to have everything. Right, so because I don't want it to, that's a darker colour, I don't want it to take away and make it way too bright, because the ground is already bright as it is, but then it goes darker as the higher you go in the picture. And this is what I mean, like I always say on my live streams when people say like, oh, how do you make your enclosures the way you do, is if a lot of time I sort of know how most environments look off by heart, but then if I'm feeling I want to do something different to what I usually do, I'll just go on Google, and I'll just type in types of environments. I'll skip all the yada yada blog stuff and just go straight to Google Images, and I'll just go and sift through there, and then I was like, oh, okay, if I find something I like, and then go and look at similar images to it, and then sort of like take the best bits of each image and then try and do my own thing with it. So that's basically like the way I make these kind of enclosures, and the way I've never got bored of a game, always make it different, because there's so many different environments out there. Even if it's just trying to make, so I do get a lot of requests to make urban environments. It's a bit difficult here because you only have really like the shops and things, so it kind of just looks like a rundown park. But eventually I will do, in my head, not in my head actually, but on my rotor is probably a more appropriate way of saying it. I want to make this request, and it got requested a few months ago, so I probably will struggle to find the actual token for it. But I got asked if I could make a Spinosaurus enclosure that was like Venice. Now, I like the idea of it. It sounds it sounds crazy, because what I've got to do to make it, it's just going to look, I think it'll look weird, but at the same time, if I can get it right, it's probably going to be one of the more interesting, outlandish looking enclosures, because obviously it's not something you don't have all those buildings and things, so it's going to be made out of primarily different types of shops. I've already got like images of Venice, so I can sort of use those as a reference and have an idea. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know when I'm going to make that. I might make it this week, I might make it next week. But it is in my, it's been in my head for ages, and I've just never got round to it because I'm just sort of in my head. How am I going to make that look somewhat decent to post out? But I think I've got a rough idea what I'm going to do with it. So as you can see, you've got like this sort of like foresty area, and then it's still got these open plain bits, and that's how we're going to do for the rest of the enclosure. So it's mainly just a mix of temperate and alpine, which I feel like it's going to make for I forget off that menu. It's gonna look good, I think, in the end. Like, so obviously all these grassy bit areas are going to have all the majority of all the extra shrubbery, and then you got these little path areas which is still going to have all the trees knocking around. So it's going to be a heavy tree one, like our redwood forest that we made a few weeks ago, wasn't it? I can't remember when we made that one. A while ago though. Do we have this type of tree without the? I don't think we do have it without the droopy stuff. I'll have a dead tree just randomly here. I'll add for something a bit different. But yeah, what we'll do now we've got a rough idea what we're doing, we'll place down our main tree everywhere and just try and keep it so it looks dense, but there's still that kind of gap like there is in the pictures. I've been looking for a while, but it's like a stock image, this image, and I've not found any background to where this woodland is. So yeah, I kind of want to know where it is, so then I can mention like, oh, this is how you do that kind of woodland. But everywhere it takes me, it's just been used as like a stock image and has no context other than to be used as like talking about different ecosystems, or have this as a poster or a screen monitor. And even it's on a t-shirt. This image is like, you know those websites where you can just sort of like make your own stock, or like get AI. That's it. So my speech today, man. Get some AI images and then just stick on a t-shirt and then sell it on the website, and they'll print it and ship it to wherever you want it to go. And you don't have to do anything other than claim your rewards at the end of it. Obviously you have to make the thing, but yeah, I saw it on a t-shirt and I was just like, who's wearing that? Because it was just like an image here of a tree of the forest. Like, it just like who's buying that? Who is wearing that? I want to know the people. I was just wearing like an A, like not even A4, an A5 size picture of a forest on like a plain white or a plain green background. Like, it's just stuff like that. It just tickles me too much because I'm like, I want to know who's wearing. I really do want to know who's wearing that t-shirt. Like, hey, look at my new t-shirt. It's got a forest on it. Yeah. Like, if you are one of those people, let me know in the comments. Do you just go around wearing an A5 picture on a plain t-shirt of a forest. But yeah, this is just it's gonna be, I feel like it'll look nice from the ground. Also from the above, like if we go over to where, oh, that's a dense one, but yeah, our redwood. Like from above, it kind of looks all the same because all the trees are the same height. You can't drag them down into the ground or anything like that to make them all appear different ages and different heights. So they are pretty similar, but it's more really when you get into the look of it, like into it, where it starts to look like very photogenic, like, you know, your screenshots and things like that. So don't worry from above, because at the end of the day, yeah, you see it above, but you gotta think, you're making a park. Are your customers getting this view? Probably not, unless they've brought themselves a little drone with them. So yeah, it's all about every now and then just go, when you're adding your thick layers of stuff, just go down low and have a nosy to what it looks like there. I might keep that as a... No, we're not keeping it as opening. I was like thinking about it, but we'll have it so it's sort of dense. It's slightly open there because obviously we can't place any trees closer to it because the whole barrier thing that they've got going on, which I really hope they remove that restriction in the next one. Like, I feel like that restriction kind of hinders a lot of building ideas, especially when using decorations. I kind of get why it's there, I think. So I'm guessing maybe for like the older consoles, where if you have like loads of items inside of each other, it might get a bit buggy, or say encourage you to add more things, and then your game crashes or your save file won't load because there's just too much going on. I guess it's kind of like a preventative for that, because it's easy to make. Well, it's not easy to make something, but it's like it's easy to go overboard when making something. And like for example, I made a structure in Planet Zoo the other day, and it had well over 1,000 bits in it, and it wasn't even that big of an enclosure in it. So I definitely went way overboard with that. And yeah, I can imagine an old gen console having a little bit of a struggle. Right, so I think that's about it for our main tree that we have knocking around. Maybe, so I kind of want to do it on the banks of the river, because obviously you could say that's sort of like a flood zone. That's where the water goes higher and lower, and some trees ain't gonna like that. So anyways, we'll go to this tree here, which we won't place as many, because it's obviously meant to be these trees, but just a younger version of it. Adds like a different height variant into it, so it's not everything's all the same height. That's a key thing. Like, you can, like with the redwood I was mentioning, like you can't drag them into the ground to make them look different. There's two types of redwoods, one that's slightly smaller than the other, but it's still like a really noticeable that they are near enough all the same height. And the case will be for this one as well. Like that's the tallest tree, and they're all exactly the same height, which is a bit of a trick on the mind, and that's why I always that's what I was saying before. Try and view it from the customer's perspective rather than your godlike overseer's perspective that we have, where we're looking down on our creation. And it kind of just helps, like, I feel like that kind of helps the confidence of your builds a bit more. So you look, oh, it looks all the same and it's not so good. But then once you get down to the lower portion of it, it starts to look better because it's you're seeing it the way a customer would see it. So yeah, it's just like you just got to keep going down every now and then, make sure you've not like, we've still got ourselves this sort of open spaces, we're not filling it all up. And yeah, like I was saying, like, to help confidence, don't always look from it above, because looking from it above, it's all going to be the same, because unless you've got mods, there's not much you can do about that. So just try and see it from like the guest perspective, where it's like lower down. Obviously we've got not much here now, but it's a lot less noticeable because of the angles that you're looking at it. It's a lot less noticeable that everything is the same height. And I feel like that can be something I've noticed when people have been talking about their own builds, like the kind of issues they have where they're like, oh, it's not that creative, it's not like it's kind of, this game is a lot of imagination. Like, you got to put a lot of your own storytelling into it.
What's your story?
And like, the more storytelling you put in yourself, the more you will get out of this game. Like, it's not just a case of, I mean, it is just a case of placing something down and dinosaurs, and if you just play it like that, you'll probably get a lot less out of this game. Obviously, there's like features in like that aren't in this game, like staff area or like off-show areas where you keep dinosaurs when you're cleaning the enclosure and things like that. Like, that's not a feature in the game, so it's but you can still make those areas. You can still say, oh, that's why that area is there. You can have quarantine areas, things like that, and you sort of add those things to your parks, and your park becomes a lot more than just a few enclosures with dinosaurs in it where your Jeep drives around. You have a bit of story to it, there's a bit more life to it when you're looking at it. Like, oh, that's where the staff go to store their like cleaning equipment. You have like a double gate system in, because it's quite helpful to have double gate systems in enclosures, because it makes things safe in the sense of somehow you forget to close one of the gates, or you open the gate and an animal gets in. You don't have to worry about that animal then getting out, because there's still another gate to go through. And it's simple things like that that add a lot more to your park builds. Like, if you're like only just playing this for the first time, or you've been sort of like eyeing it up to like want to play and you've never got around to getting it, and you do want to get into it, sandbox building for me is the fun part, because you've got so much creative freedom to do what you want. I mean, you can still make a lot of lovely parks in challenge mode, but as the name suggests, it's a little bit more challenging. You have to save up your money, you've got the restrictions of what your animals like and things like that. So for me, I literally, when I got the game, I played challenge mode, I played the campaign, I played Chaos Theory, and then that was that. It was sandbox for the next like 2 and a bit years. Because the game's, it's still nuts to think this game is 3 years old now. Like, in my head, it's not that old. I still feel like I was playing it. You know, first time I played it was like last year, and you know what? There is a big bush somewhere. I mean, I might place the odd one of these, so it doesn't take too much away, and block too many lines of sight. But I really do like this bush. It's a cool bush. I feel like the only thing with this bush though, I feel like this gets heavily used in a lot of people's builds. I mean, it's a great bush, but again, it definitely like suffers that it's just the same thing on repeat. Even with the random rotation, I still look at this bush and go, like, you know, when you do like a line of them, I'm like, oh wow, it's the same thing. I mean, because it is the same thing on repeat, but there's like not much variation in its like turntable and things like that to make it look completely different. But it's still a nice bush to use. So I just use the odd one of those. I don't want to overdo it with this one because of how big. This is just basically a giant pom pom. So yeah, place the odd one of that. What about put one there? Do we place one in the, yeah, I'll place one in the corner here. And it's nice how like close you can get to like this bush to things, so you can like use it to hide like certain items and whatnot. Did we go past the temperate? Or is the temperate right at the bottom? Right. So talking about like playing this game for like 3 years, it's almost like I haven't, because I forget where everything is. I play this game I play every week. And there's still bits of like where's that bit? Where's that bit? Can I do this? Can I I'm like, I've been playing this for years. How do I not know that? But right now we're just again adding all those different layers to make it interesting, keeping the other plants on the green. So that's where we have, and then like obviously we don't have dried leaves in this game, but that's what that mud is slightly representing. We could always add a little bit of a rock brush to add texture to it, but only lightly tapping it so it's not heavily pronounced over the dirt. but only ever so slightly. We'll try it out first, see if that actually works out the way I'm thinking it'll work out in my head, and that can be our sort of like fake kind of leaf effect. And we kind of just hope it works like that. Because obviously we're on the tropical map, so everything's more vibrant. So trying to get like a temperate forest, sort of like, I mean, some temperate forests do look really vibrant, like really green, but a lot of them are sort of like this sort of palish green, what I like to call sicklish green. Like it's not as healthy or as bright as other things. But I think we're getting that sort of look. Because we've still got like a load of rock to add. Like the best thing about these builds, you can make them as quick or as long as you want to. Take your time, rush through it. It's completely your call. Place a few over here. We've got any, yeah, we've already got some on that patch. But yeah, it's just 3 years. Where has 3 years gone? Like, I can't believe how fast 3 years have been. Wait, we're still going to do a few of these. See, this is usually why I do speed builds, because a lot of it is just me placing trees. But I started to realise a lot of people actually like this kind of content where it's just me yapping whilst building. So usually what I tend to do, I'd build this, like so. I'd have my Alexa booming some kind of music out, and then I'll just speed build it. Like, what kind of videos do you prefer? Do you like this kind of video where it's just me yapping and playing and sort of explaining what I'm doing? And or do you actually prefer the speed builds? Because obviously I don't do as many speed builds anymore, mainly for like prehistoric kingdom. Words, man. I'll do speed builds for Planet Zoo. I'll still do speed builds for, because a lot of that is just me looking through the menu trying to figure out what item I want to use to try and replicate something. And those builds, they take my full time, whereas I can comfortably put out a build. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the longer ones because I'm sort of taking my time and just sort of chatting and sort of going back and forth and looking at things. But some other builds on this game can take like 10 minutes to do, whereas like Planet Zoo Prehistoric Kingdom can take way over an hour. Like I built the other day, which I'm going to be doing for Sunday's video. I built the T-Rex viewing log, as best I can in Prehistoric Kingdom, and that took over an hour. And that was just a log. That wasn't the enclosure. That was just the viewing log. And then I spent a while trying to figure out how I could incorporate it so guests could get inside of it without destroying the look. I mean, the first attempt was a bit meh. My second attempt's a bit better, but I do have a newer idea that I just need to try out if I get time to, anyways. But yeah, you'll see all that on Sunday, because we'll be back to, you know, the normal video routine. We just had like a very Jurassic World evolution week with it being like 3 years old. I thought, you know, let's celebrate it. We'll do a Jurassic World evolution video every day. But yeah, we're nearly done with this. It's just the bushes now, the little bushes, the tiny pom-poms. I'll just keep going back and forth like that, just mixing it up a wee bit. If I can. It's like I'm running out of room in these green bits because we placed so much stuff. But again, that's just going to make it interesting, seeing our smaller dinosaurs like weave in and out of it, disappear, reappear, and it kind of makes you feel like the when you can't see your dinosaurs, it definitely makes me think of the Jurassic part of the film when they're going around in the tour jeep, and it's like, oh, they can't see into the Dilophosaurus enclosure, they can't see any Dilophosaurus, they don't see the T-Rex for ages because there's just so much greenery. Like, what was John Hammond thinking about that? Like, I mean, I guess it's great for the dinosaurs because they're not being viewed all the time, but how are the people meant to see the dinosaurs, especially when it's a tour car going round? And then it's like, oh, it goes all the way around, and you saw absolutely nothing. I mean, they spared no expense, but clearly they spared expense on enclosure design because, man, you just can you imagine going to a zoo Like, oh, did you have fun? Oh, what did you see? Absolutely nothing. You're not going to go back to that zoo, are you? And it's only just something that's really occurring in my head right now that, like, yeah, that was a terrible enclosure design. Because you saw absolutely nothing. And you're not going to go back there if you don't see anything. I mean, they might be trying to play on the fact, oh, you didn't see that this time, but maybe next time you spend more money, you might, you know. I kind of see the business side of it, but at the end of the day, somebody who hasn't got a lot of money ain't going to go back. They're just going to be like, oh, it's rubbish, saw nothing. 1 star. Like, honestly. I don't know why I'm only thinking that now. Like, so they just drove past it and like, oh, they didn't see the Dilophosaurus. They literally made them wait. It was daytime when they got outside the T-Rex enclosure, and it was nighttime. Like, how long were they sat in that car just to wait to see a T-Rex, and it still hadn't popped up till the worst time possible? Like, poor guests. I think even when it opened, it won't last long. Otherwise, they'd have to make some like drastic changes and get rid of a lot of the shrubbery. We're nearly done here. We're nearly done here. Just a few more of these knocking about. I'll go back with the bigger brush on the way back. So we'll have a look at what it looks like on the ground so far. But I'd love trying to make different environments within. Obviously, this is the tropical one, and then try and making tropical and taiga look so jarring. But I do love it. Right. So from the ground perspective, it's starting to look a lot like what I wanted from the image. Obviously, it's a bit more barer in the image, and it doesn't have a river going through it. But we've got something pretty similar that looks a lot like that image, especially with like the space in between all these like really tall naked trunks, and then the random bits of like bushes knocking around. Obviously, it's also hiding the food source in there. I think we're starting to get there. We're near to the end. Now let's try this brush thing I had in mind. Maybe more this one, because I know this one spawns a bit of green. There we go. Oh, it's adding texture that doesn't look too rocky and kind of blends in with the dirt, and all we're doing is literally just tapping it. Yeah, that's adding a lot more texture to the ground already and making it less completely dirt-like. Obviously, if we hold on to it like that, it's going to look like complete rock, which we don't want. But using, like, it's things like this, just like little simple tricks that kind of add to your enclosure design. If you like hold on to it, you, like I said, it's going to completely change that. But if you lightly tap it, it's going to be like a very 50-50 like look to it. And I think the best thing about this as well is not too jarringly brown at this point when you start adding this brush to it, and it's kind of looking like it's been stepped on a fair bit, it's been pushed down. Kind of looks like almost like river mud, really, which is quite a nice little touch. Also, I don't want to press down too much on it because it's going to completely change over and have the look we don't want. We're going to add a little bit of sandbanks to our river, not all the way down. It's like when you go to rivers, it's not, sandbanks aren't all the way down, it's a lot of pebbles, which we don't have a pebble brush, so we can't do that. But we'll just have to deal with like the dirt sort of look thing, the odd bit of sand here and there where like river rocks have been smashed up, grounded up, and then sort of deposited on the side, so it's like river sand, which you know, it looks quite nice. Obviously the sand in tropical is extremely beach-like. Right, so we've done that. It's added a bit more texture to our ground. I really wish we had brushes like gravel and there we go, we'll likely do it like that. But yeah, I really wish we had like gravel brushes and snow brushes that aren't just in snowland, because like if you're in a dome you can make like a proper eco thing. What else could we have which would look kind of cool? Like leaf brush, like a dead leaf brush, so you can do your forests a little bit better in that kind of sense, so it looks like leaves are falling off. Well, again, we're just going to lightly tap it. It doesn't mind if it gets thicker in areas. But again, it kind of gives it that, with it's mixing in the mud and the rock, kind of gives it that river sand look. So it's not completely just beach. It's got these like sort of like sandy areas. And again, it's a little bit tedious, a little bit TLC done to it, but in the end, you get quite a nice result. Maybe a bit on this bit here. Try and do it. I think I might just do it all the way down, like so. And then, yeah, we'll start adding our alpine rocks now. Need to remember alpine because I won't do any other rocks. I think we'll do big rock on this corner. The reason why I'm doing this one because it's got like moss growing over it, and when you look at like the few rocks or like mossy patches in this corner on the actual image that I was using as the reference, and which I will put it at the beginning. I'm not gonna put it every time because otherwise it's just gonna be that image coming up every few seconds. As these like little mossy ground bits, obviously we don't have random moss patches to stick on, but we have these rocks, and we'll try and stick to mainly the smaller ones because there's just lots of random patches of this moss. So I think it'll add for an interesting kind of look to this enclosure. And again, it's just spamming rocks everywhere. You don't have to like neatly think, oh, it's got to be there, it's got to be here. I feel like the more random you do it, the better it looks, because it's got no natural kind of place. It's not been planned out methodically. It's got no pattern. And if you don't like a rock where it is after you've done the random spamming of rocks, you can always just go and delete it. It's the best thing about it. You can always go back and change it. You don't have to rush through these kind of builds. You can just sort of take your time. Without being a big opener, I thought, you know what, we may as well have a big rock here as well. Just do like a load of little rocks. I mean, if you really wanted to go and add like different features, you can do like little fairy circles and things like that. I mean, it is a woodland at the end of the day, so, and that could be just due to the board staff member was cleaning and then did this little fairy circle thing. It's like natural occurring. I think that'd be kind of a rare structure. It's usually because an animal, mainly a human, has done it. You can add those things because again, it's just something in there. Like, why are the rocks like that? A zookeeper got bored when they were cleaning out the enclosure and just sort of did it with the rocks like that. Or when they were putting it together, someone just decided, you know, we need a fairy circle. I mean, it's not necessary. It's, again, you can, like I said, to get the most out of this game, add your own story to it, add your own sort of mission to it, kind of even put your own restrictions into it. Like, you could say when you build in a sandbox and you pick your environment, I'm only going to have 10 dinosaurs, I'm only going to use certain types of enrichment decorations or certain type of building. When you start adding that restriction to it, it kind of helps you get more creative in the sense of, well, I can't do that because I said I'm not doing that, but how am I going to achieve something that looks a bit like that? And yeah, like I said, once you start adding those restrictions, it kind of helps you be more creative as well, because you've not just got this like blurriness of what to use because you've got too much to choose from. Like, I feel like, again, that's another thing that might hinder someone's building experience on this game, is like, especially if they're not like used to trying to be creative in this kind of sense. I'm not saying you're not a creative person, it's more like you're not used to being on this side of creativity. You have a different creative mind and you're kind of like, oh, there's so much as this, as that, and you're trying to use it all, can kind of like hinder you a bit, because you're like, oh, you either get bored because you're using everything, or you're not too sure how to do it because there's everything to choice. But as soon as you start restricting yourself even more than the game already is compared to something like Planet Zoo or Prehistoric Kingdom, it start forces you to be creative, to try and make more. Like, that's the thing I find about this game, because on other games I can do so much more, but because of that, and I know I can't really replicate 100% of the kind of environments want to, I kind of have to go to my head and think, well, how can I make it look similar to that environment? And again, that's what brings out my creativity anyways within this game. Like, I've made mangroves. We don't have any mangrove trees in here. We don't have that kind of system in play here. But because of that not being able to have those items, it's made me think, well, what can I use to try and make that? What can I possibly do to make it look similar to this image? And I feel like that's probably my new way of probably explaining it to when someone says, like, how have you not got bored of this game? I think it's mainly because of the drive of wanting to try and make something that isn't actually in the game without using mods to get something that's close to as what I'm looking at. And then we'll just add a few. Should we change? I don't know. I won't change the rock for river rocks. When I say Taiga rocks, they have like a very pebbly sort of look to them in my eye. So I was like, oh, you know what? Choose that. We'll do the bigger rocks around the river. It's just kind of nice. It splits the enclosure up a wee bit. Place that there. The question is, I think I might just leave the river pretty naked, pretty bare, rather than forcing a load of plants onto it, because I feel like we'll be taken away from our forest a little bit, and I want some naked areas in a sense that there's nothing. So when I'm actually looking at it from above, I might be able to see something when I'm moving around the park, which is also a little bit of a point. Like, you want to be able to see your dinosaurs. You don't want to just make some completely where you have to every time duck down to go and see them. You want to be able to somewhat see them when you're moving from enclosure to enclosure. Otherwise, what's the point of having your dinosaurs if you don't see them? I'm trying not to go too mad with the rocks, because I always end up doing that. It feels like there's nothing there though. I mean, there's always a lot of rocks in rivers, isn't there? I've never been to a river where there isn't a sign of a rock anywhere. Right, there we go. I think that's where we'll call it, and then what we'll do is we'll lightly add another brush, because I don't. There's obviously this is a very brown, so we'll just go over with this trampled dirt grass sort of brush on these areas, like so it looks a little less brown from above. And then we can always lightly kind of tap into our little footpaths that we made so they don't look too, I want to say, menacingly. Again, it's just that lightly tapping. Don't mind it being thick on the outskirts. They just kind of bring it together a wee bit, I think. I mean, like I said, we can always, if we don't like what you've done, you can always go back. It's not the end of the world. Oh, my guests are concerned about the lack of shelters. Ah, they won't have to worry, it's creativity mode. Yeah, I ain't letting any dinosaurs out yet. I mean, to be honest, just some flying pterosaurs knocking about, just living their best life. I can't even remember which enclosure I did those for. And I was sort of like, we'll let them free roam. And they don't cause any trouble because obviously sandbox. But yeah, we're just making those little paths narrow, kind of giving it more that green look in areas. Like, it's not too bad that. This is a major big area really. That's a lot of where there's not much growing. So it's kind of a case of I don't want to just gently tap it again. Add a little bit of. There we go. And a lot of time it's just that. And we're just gently dragging it along with quick flicks, and it's starting to look a lot less mud based. But we still want those like darker areas because, like I said in the image I was using, there's a lot of fallen leaves. An area like this. It's obviously where there's a lot of gap where sun is, grass can grow. And again, we're just taking away to like a lot of the brown, but it's still there in a lot of areas. here, maybe. I think maybe a bit here. Bit more there. There we go. I think that's how we're going to leave it. So looking at that, it doesn't look too bad from the sky. I'm not too bothered about the sky as much. Just more this view I'm after. Which I feel like with the little bits of grass there, the dirt paths, the mossy rocks, and little bits of the food brush mixed in with the temperate, I think I am pretty happy with that enclosure. Is this the kind of enclosure that you'd make? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to know what you think about this enclosure. But anyways, we'll leave it at that, and what we'll do is I'll go and get my dinosaurs in, and I'll do a few little bit of montage at the end like I've done with these kind of videos. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this and it's giving you some inspiration. And as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.
Oh,